Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for your patience, just having a little bit of technical difficulties today. But my name is Sharita Marshall, and you are in the ERG annual planning session. So thank you for joining. So if we can go to the next slide, we'll go ahead and get started. We have a jam-packed agenda today where we're going to be discussing how to accurately make your annual plan so that it is not only aligned with your business, with your organization's business priorities for the upcoming year, but also help you to get that leadership buy-in, that membership engagement, as well as that advocacy throughout your entire organization. Next slide. So, a little bit about me. My name is Sharita Marshall. I am founder of Visionary Development Consulting, where I specialize in employee resource group management, as well as ERG strategies and DEI consultation. So, I'm going to give you guys a couple of seconds. If you take a picture of the QR code, you can go ahead and link with me on LinkedIn. So, I just threw that QR code up there to make it a little bit easy for you guys to connect with me. Okay, next slide. So, when we think about annual planning, when it comes to ERGs, we want to think about assessment first. And the reason why I say assessment first is because you need to start looking at the data that you have from your previous and current year. And if you have not collected data, that's okay. I'll tell you how to start using what you have. But you want to look at what was happening from your prior ERG. What were some of the ERG activities? What were some of your achievements, as well as what were some of your challenges? Because you want to learn from what didn't work. If you had events that did not have high ERG participation, you want to look at that to see why did that happen. And it could be anything from the timing of the event, the actual event itself, or the communication around the event. So when you think about assessment and you think about your activities, you want to notate your achievements, what went well, what didn't go well, as well as what you could do better for the upcoming year. And when it comes to challenges, I always like to stress transparency. It's okay if stuff did not work out. There's nothing wrong with that. When it comes to ERGs, especially if you have not solidified your program and had it working for a couple of years, it's really trial and error right now. So you want to make sure that you are very transparent about your challenges, whether you did not have leadership buy-in, if you did not have resource allocation, and that includes time as well as funding, or if you just did not have alignment with the business priorities, so you really couldn't show a true ROI for your ERG program. There's nothing wrong with that. You want to be transparent because in that transparency, you'll be able to directly address the needs of your program while simultaneously building trust within leadership. And so when it comes to your metrics and key performance indicators, if you have not been collecting data, then I strongly suggest you start doing it today. And if you have been collecting data, then look at the data for what it is. Don't do any comparison right now. Just look at your data. So let's just say your ERG employee satisfaction grew by 10%. That's a great accomplishment, but you're really looking for that 20% increase. So there's a 10% gap. So that's when you, again, look and see what challenges were you facing with your activities around growing your ERG satisfaction. And so this will allow you to really assess to see where you are versus where you want to go. And where you want to go is something we'll talk about in a little bit. Just a little housekeeping because I jumped right in. Please put your questions in the Q&A and I will make sure that I get over to them. I will be taking pauses in the presentation to look at your questions. If you have a couple of questions come up before we get to the end, but we'll definitely have time for Q&A. Next slide. So when we think about what we're going to do next, it's all about alignment. Alignment is so key to everything when it comes to your ERG program. If you do not have alignment, meaning that your ERG activities, initiatives, and overall program goals are not directly connected to your broader organizational goals, it is going to be a hindrance for you to have successful implementation, support, buy-in, and scalability for your ERG program. When you have that true alignment, this ensures that your efforts are not only beneficial to your ERG team members, but also contribute meaningfully to the company's mission and business objectives. So when it comes to alignment, it's important to understand your company's strategic priorities for the upcoming year. And sometimes that does not align time-wise with when you are actually doing your annual planning. And that's no problem. What you can do is take your current company goals and use those as the alignment for your upcoming year. Typically speaking, most companies don't stray too far away from the goals that they have from a current year to the next year, unless you have an M&A or you have a complete overall of leadership, and then there might be stark differences, but typically it doesn't stray that far. So if your company has not finalized their strategic goals for the following year, then just use your current company's goals to start looking at where you can have that alignment. And so one example of this is that if your company has a goal to reduce employee turnover by 5%, you can look to understand how can your ERG program support that reduction through different initiatives and fostering a sense of belonging and improving employee satisfaction. Now, keep in mind, I always stress, no matter how small that company percentage is, you do not take on that whole thing. You do not take on that 5%. I recommend maybe 1% of that 5%, and then it can be even lower than that because it is not your responsibility as an ERG program to take on a company-wide initiative, but you want to take a percentage of it to show how you can drive impact. And if you have not done this before, then the lower the amount, the better, because you do want to under promise and over deliver when it comes to your impact initially. If you have not been able to show direct impact in the past or in the present, you want to start off small because this gives you room for adjustment, it gives you room for grace, and then it gives you room to see where you should really be focusing your efforts and energies. And then another thing that you will be able to do is see how your ERG's past contributions have impacted the organization. Now, again, if you have not collected data, it's okay. You can still do this by looking at, has your ERG program impacted recruitment for top diverse talent? Did people say, hey, I came to this organization because I saw that you had an ERG program, or someone who was a part of your ERGs reached out to me, or I contacted them to see what the company culture was, to see if I wanted to join. That, even though you don't have specific data, is still a way you can show how your ERGs in the past have contributed to the organization's success. So even though data is important, if you don't have the key data you feel you need right now, it's okay. You can still find ways that you can show impact from your organization. So once you've been able to look at the company's priorities, look at how you've impacted the company in the past or currently, then you will start thinking about linking those. Like, where can we find the mutually benefited sweet spot between the needs of the ERG members and leaders, as well as the organization's business objectives? This is something that you want to create a win-win. You don't want to overemphasize the company's priorities and deprioritize the needs of your members. So when you look at it, an example could be that your ERG program was instrumental in driving a specific ERG initiative or the overall DEI goals. And then you can talk to how, if you choose as a company to expand upon or keep that DEI initiative, then your ERG program can further push that initiative along through its various initiatives, activities, and visibility, not just within the organization, but also outside of the organization. Your goal as a program manager, DEI lead, HR lead, or whatever your specific title is to show impact. And when you have data, you can show pinpointed impact, but if you don't, you still need to be able to show impact. Because we are in this DEI pushback phase right now, which again is a phase, you want to take away any reason for them to doubt the validity of having ERGs. By showing impact, by showing connection, by showing alignment, you take a lot of gas out of that pushback because they begin to recognize that this success of this ERG program is directly connected to the organization's overall success. They cannot say no to that. So make sure that alignment is always top of mind, it's always key, and always driving you forward. Okay, next slide. So now that we've looked at alignment, we want to start thinking about our strategic focus areas. And this, for me, because I'm just a program and project management nerd, I love this part because it's brainstorming, it's brain dumping. When you think about what you want to do with your program, what you want to focus on, part of the way that I work with my clients is that we do a brainstorming session where nothing is wrong, nothing is out the box, nothing is over the top. We just dump everything. Where should we focus? What should we do? How can we do this? And the best way to start with that is that you don't want too many cooks in the kitchen, but you do want input. So make sure before you start your brainstorming session, you have your participation rates, you have your feedback surveys from your ERG members. You know what they need, you know what they want. You're looking at your event success or non-success rates. You are looking at everything to see, hey, where should we really be putting our effort and energy in? And then that's where you dump it into the brainstorming session. So for instance, if you've done like a feedback survey from your ERG members, and one of the things that they're really pushing for is mental health and wellness as a top concern for them, then you can say, hey, that should be an area of focus for our ERGs. And if it doesn't specifically align with your organization's business priorities, I will talk about how you can get that alignment in a minute. So once you've been able to like brain dump everything, then you want to look at, okay, let's prioritize what we can do now. And prioritize also includes what can we reasonably do within the time frame. And when you're thinking about your annual planning, it's okay to think about 2 to 3 years out, but still have that within the context of your annual planning, meaning that, hey, we want to focus on wellness and well-being, but we want to start this year with seeing like how can we leverage what we currently have and then build upon that on year 2 and year 3. It's okay to have that that extended time frame, but you want to make sure like if it is a priority right now, that what you want to do within your first year. So you're going to start looking at the data, you're going to start looking at the resources you possibly have. You want to kind of take things into consideration. And again, you want to make sure that whatever you're narrowing down to is also reasonable. Like it's great to do everything. Everything is important. Like I say, the forest can be on fire, but you only have a bucket, so you can't put everything out. So start with what you can do. And then if there are things that are truly like, hey, we have to be able to figure out a way to do this, then this is where the alignment comes into play. So if we think about that example of the employees really wanting the health and wellness, mental health, but there isn't a specific company objective related to mental health, but there is an objective to reduce churn, employee retention rate. So that can be a direct connected tie because you can say, hey, we want to focus on mental health and well-being of team members, and we want to use the ERG program as a platform for that. And this is how we're going to do it. And then by doing that, studies have shown if you don't have the data internally, go outside and get data. Studies have shown that employees that feel seen, heard, and valued and have access to quality mental health are more likely to stay within the organization, have better job satisfaction, so on and so forth. You can create alignment, but you have to do the research to make the connection if it's not a one-to-one. There's nothing wrong with not having a one-to-one, but you have to have some data, some support to back it up if this is the initiative you want to push outside of your program to leadership. You have to show what's in it for them. Next slide. So now that we've done this brain dump, we've looked at this strategic area of focus, and we've decided what we want to focus on that is in direct alignment, and we're able to show that alignment if it's not a one-to-one, then we'll start to build out our goals and our action plan. And the great thing about your goals and action plans is that you are going to be specific about your goals and your action plans regardless of if your organization's goals are more qualitative, your goals are going to be quantitative because, again, you have to show that ROI. You have to show that direct connect. And if you decide that your organization, since your organization goals are qualitative, your goals are going to be qualitative as well, it is going to leave you in in ambiguity when it comes to being able to really show impact. And we don't want that right now. That does not help what we're trying to push and how we're trying to stabilize and solidify the ERG program being beneficial for the overall company health and success. So being strategic and specific about your goals is the way to do it. So let's just say your company has a goal to reduce employee churn. That's just where they left it at. They didn't give you anything else. So now you want to say, hey, we want to help reduce churn by 1% within the organization. That's you giving a quantifying amount to a qualitative goal. Again, this shows that you are committed to the success as well as you being able to show how you can contribute to the overall company's goal. And then you will break down how the ERG is going to individually contribute that. And that can be through job fairs, it could be through that health and wellness, all of those things that you can contribute to. And then you'll start to build out your action plan from there. Next slide. Now, when it comes to your action plan, two things you want to keep in mind. You want to keep in mind resource required and support needed. The reason why this is important is that you want to be able to discuss the tangibles, meaning your budget, and the intangible, which is time. Some people see that as tangible as well. So the example that I have here, I'll just go over the first one, is that you need to increase your budget, be specific. So let's say you need to increase your budget by 20,000 for ERG-led events and initiatives based on a 20% growth of participation in the past year. And this is based on your ERG participation tracking. So again, you're showing that you are looking at metrics, you're tracking metrics, and then this is why you need this dollar amount of a required resource. Now, the support needed to get that specific amount is advocacy from executive leadership to secure the additional fundings for the ERG. And then you back that up saying why they should do that is because your employee satisfaction survey shows that there was a 15% increase in ERG member satisfaction. Again, if you don't have the data directly, you can use outside data, but this is what is going to get you the support you need. So you're not just saying, hey, we need this. You're saying exactly what you need, the reason why you need it, and the reason why you need the support to get it. Being very specific like this makes it very hard for people to say no because they see the reason, they see the points behind it, and they see the impact. Next slide. So the next thing that you're going to do is that you're going to be looking at your timeline. Now, again, timelines are going to vary based off of when you actually can start. I always recommend annual planning to start the last couple of weeks of September going through October, because I know November and December people are really busy trying to close out the end of the year. And sometimes it's hard to do your planning at that time. But right now is a sweet spot to start planning. And again, this gives you flexibility to adjust as needed, but you may not know your company's business priorities right now. You may not know them until Q1. It's okay. When you start planning now, it leaves space for you to be flexible. The most important thing that you need to note in the high level implementation timeline is the finalization and approval of what you're trying to do, the launching of your initiatives, as well as the progress reports, and you should be doing progress reports quarterly. Even if you don't start until Q2, the end of Q2, excuse me, the end of Q2, you still need to be giving those progress reports internally to your ERG program, the leaders and the executive sponsors, as well as leadership. And the reason why you're doing this is that you're creating transparency and also creating accountability. If you're trying to do something and people are saying they're going to support it, and you're saying, hey, we weren't able to start this until the end of Q2 because of X, Y, and Z, then now you're showing like, hey, we need to be accountable for what we're saying we're going to do so that we can show impact. So when you're looking at the checkpoints, you want to checkpoint in with the milestones. You want to check point in to the adjustments that need to be made. You want to check into the strategy tweaks that have to be done. But another key thing is that when you do these checkpoints and check in, if there are any changes to the priorities, because businesses change priorities at any given time depending on how the business is going, then you're able to adjust and tweak the strategy at that point. And then you can notate that, hey, we had to pivot and adjust because going into Q3, leadership said that they are moving over to this thing and that's what they want to focus on. So this is the adjustments we have to do, still being in alignment with what your members need, but also making sure that you are able to pivot and do that caveat for what leadership in the organization needs. And then around Q3 or before the end of the year, you do want to get that feedback. Feedback is continuously going, but you want to get that feedback around Q3 to say, hey, members, ERG leaders, how have things been going this year? What's worked? What's not worked? Where do you feel like we can better support you moving forward? Because that will help you prepare for your annual planning coming up into Q4. This is the way to keep everyone involved, have transparency, have visibility, and solidify buy-in on every phase. Next slide. So now accountability and responsibilities. When you have your plan that has been solidified, that has been approved, you can have accountability. And I know accountability is one of those things a lot of people have gotten pushback on, but when you have direct tie-in to the organization's business priorities, our accountability is not optional. Because if people who have responsibilities to your plan are not doing what they're supposed to do, they can be held accountable because they are not being responsible to the organization's overall success. This is how you get that pushback to go away. This is how you make sure people are accountable and do what they say they're going to do. So these are some things that I go through with my clients, but you should be going through them during your annual planning. You should be looking at your leadership roles and responsibilities every year. One, to make sure they're still applicable. Two, to make sure that they are understandable. And three, make sure people are actually committed and doing what they're supposed to do. Having a reporting structure. This is key to have this documented because people leave, things change, you have new leadership. You need to have this documented and make sure, again, you look at it every year to make sure it is still applicable and still working in the structure and the way you need to. Continuously looking at alignments all the way when you're doing those checkpoints, making sure you're getting those metrics, tracking progress and accountability. These are things go hand in hand. So you want to make sure that you keep this together. Feedback, recognition, and continuous improvement. I really kind of lump those in together, even though I have them separate. You can continuously improve your program when you have continual feedback that you not only look at, but that you actually take action upon and that you recognize the success and wins when they happen. Do not wait to the end of the year. Have things so that people understand how things should work, celebrate those wins, celebrate those accomplishments, celebrate those promotions. That's what keeps people engaged. That's what keeps people from recognizing that they are not a checkbox, but actually part of a system of change for everyone to feel seen, heard, and valued. Next slide. Communication and engagement. This is so key and important. Do not silo your communication. Make sure your communication is going outside of your program. Make sure that your communication is going to leadership so that they have buy-in. Include leaders in some of your activities. If you are focused on career development, bring in an executive leader to talk about their experience as being an executive leader. When you have that one-to-one connection with them, they are more amicable to the buy-in because they're like, oh, I'm being highlighted. You want to hear about me? Yeah, I love to talk about me. People love to talk about themselves. Give them a platform. This will help with buy-in. As well as membership engagement. If you have members that are doing things, share it outside of your program, share it with the community at large, not just the organization, but outside the organization. This gets buy-in, not just within the organization, but your community. And this gets people to hold the organization accountable for what they said they're going to do for their team members. Make sure you have targeted communication, newsletters that give voices to leaders so that they can be seen, not just on the executive level, but throughout the organization and outside of the organization. Make sure that leadership is aware of the initiatives that you have going on through those newsletters, through them participating in events. All of these things can increase engagement and transparency and solidify buy-in on every level. Next slide. So I have thrown a lot at you, and I know that. But the point of this is to get you really rethinking how you're doing annual planning and not have it be an afterthought, but something that you are very intentional, strategic, and committed to. This gets you the buy-in. This gets you success. Rethinking annual planning from a data-driven space. Make sure that you are looking at everything in a holistic way so that you are setting measurable goals that are aligned with the organization's priorities, that are fostering accountability. That's what you want to do, is make sure you foster accountability on all levels. So when you're thinking about your data planning, use what you have, and whatever you don't have, make sure you find a way to make that connection as to what you want to do and how you want to use it. Set those measurable goals that will have impact. Make sure you're able to show impact. Under promise and over deliver. Do not take on too much, especially if this is the first time that you're using this specific framework for your annual planning. Alignment with organization priorities, that's one of the things that you can do, and make sure that you're keeping alignment with it. Priorities change, but when you have those milestones and those check-ins, you'll be able to make sure and show how you're staying within alignment. And then fostering accountability. Accountability drives continual improvement. And once you're able to show continual improvement and show continual impact, you are able to circumnavigate the pushback that a lot of you guys are feeling right now. And so with that, we will go to the next slide, which is our Q&A session. So, whew, I know I gave you a lot, so we can go to Q&A so I can answer as many questions as I can in the couple of minutes that we have. You will have access to the slides. And one other thing before I go, you do have a resource that's available to you in the resource section. It is a guide around leveraging impactful data. And if you need more support from me, please reach out to me via LinkedIn or shoot me an email. But again, you'll have the slides that has all of that information. So let me hop over to the Q&A. And what is an M&A? Mergers and acquisitions. So said that really fast. I would like to know the average amount of funding ERGs receive at other organizations is a genuinely a recommended amount. The amount of funding really depends on your organization. So if you have a larger organization, the amount could be anywhere from 10,000 to 20,000. If you have a smaller organization, it could be anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000, but it just depends. How can ERG leaders manage these planning tasks on top of the I recommend that ERG leaders do not do annual planning. I recommend that the ERG program manager or the person who is over all of the ERGs are the one that actually do the annual planning. It is way too much for the individual leaders to do it. And then it also does not allow for continuity across all of the ERG leaders. The program manager or whoever is the head of the ERG should be doing it and then pushing down the templates, and the metrics and everything else down to leadership. You should not be doing this. It's way too much. It is a second job for you, and some of you are not paid for that. And I will never advocate for you to do work for free. Um, let's see. This information is amazing. Thanks so much. How would you suggest some companies strive for this if their ERGs are not mature enough to be integrated? It's not about your maturity to be integrated. It's about you figuring out where you can make impact and creating a plan to make impact. Maturity doesn't matter. You can make impact on day one. Just like when you come into your job, you can start making impact that day or 90 days out. You don't have to be mature in years. You just have to see where you can make the impact and create a plan to do so. What things should we address in the quarterly progress report? You should address your timeline. So whatever milestones you have, you should be addressing that. The high level timeline that I gave you was just what I gave you. But you should have other timelines in between those that show the individual goals that you are striving for. So whatever goals you have, you should be doing that in the quarterly progress. And I want to check time because I want to make sure I have enough time. And can I give an example of a business strategy priority and alignment that something that's not focused on culture or career, but a business outcome? For example, if an organization wants to improve sales by 20%, how can an ERG contribute to that? An ERG can contribute to that because they can help to increase diverse leadership. That's one thing you can do. It's not necessarily a one-to-one, but if you are able to leverage your internal talent, you can help impact sales goals. So that could be, so again, it may not be a direct thing, but you can show how if we are able to upskill our current talent pool, then we can directly impact the sales goal of 20%. That's how you make that connection. So sometimes it does take a little bit of thought, and this is some of the things that I work through with my clients during our annual planning sessions to help show them how to make those connections when it's not a one-to-one. The progress report should go out to leaders, senior leadership. The mid-level managers should get a copy of it, but they are not invited to the meeting. And then you should be having meetings with your ERG leaders and executive sponsors to give the progress reports. That's who you should be sharing those things out to. And then your newsletters that you send out to the organization, you should showcase, hey, this is what we're working towards, and this is very high level, so that they have visibility into it as well. But you don't show them the progress report, you just share that in communication. What is your experience with merged or combined ERGs? That's a longer answer. Merged and ERGs, I always go back to what was the point of merging or combining if it was just to put it together because they felt like it. That's never a good thing. I always ask, what was the outcome that you want from merging from that? And then from there we go, I give suggestions on to how to support it. But I always ask them like, why did you merge these or why did you combine them? And then from there we can figure out best practices. It's not a direct answer because if I don't know why that combination happens, then I can't really support it because a lot of times they do it because of the pushback. So they're just like, oh, we're just going to lump you all together because that's just easier for us to do, but it doesn't benefit the members. And what methods could we use to combat burnout and abandonment if we face local ERGs that are volunteer on top of their day jobs? You need to take away a lot of the admin work and a lot of like the annual planning, all of this stuff. You need to take that off of your ERG leaders, and you need to leave them to just be the ones that lead the initiatives, be the ones that actually go to the events. They can come up with the ideas of events. This is not taking away their autonomy, but when it comes to any of the admin work, the back end work, you need to take that off of their plate. You need to make it really easy for them to do it. So However you're collecting data, it needs to be laid out so people see it and they can grab it and they can do it. However you can make their job easier as the manager of the program, that is your responsibility. That's how you help combat burnout. But if they're doing every little thing, they're going to burn out because it's just so much. So having a program set up is how you help to alleviate burnout because you're taking off a lot of things on their plate. Bah, bah, bah. I think that might have been the last question. I'm trying to make sure I'm at time. So I have 5 minutes left for. Sorry.
You have
2 minutes
3 minutes
left.
left.
Okay, so thank you. So again, I want to thank you all for your time. If you have any more questions, please reach out to me either via LinkedIn or via my email, info@visionarydevelopmentinc.com. Again, you'll get these slides. You'll have access to that resource that I spoke about in the resource tab. I am always around. If you need me, I am connected with Chezi, so I do their training. So anytime you need me, please reach out. I love and support you all. Thank you so much.